Hey guys, welcome back for Power Rankings Week 10. Ice Hockey Aussies, Nick and Jaden here, and Jaden's going to get us straight into it.
Alrighty, not changing. 32 Anaheim Ducks.
Well, it's not great for them at the moment.
No, I could have made the change, but I couldn't just because they didn't win a game. And that was basically it. That no points for the week. Lose to Winnipeg, Islanders, and Rangers. Granted, difficult week in regards to schedule, but yeah, no results, no points. Couldn't move.
Yeah, that was pretty much where I was at. Like, did have a tough week, but again, you don't even drag a point out of it. It's tough to sort of move you upper rankings when you don't get a result at all. It would almost seem pretty cruel to the team at 31 if you move them to 32. But in saying that, we'll might as well jump straight into 31. With that team, I have Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah. See, I cheated with
Uh,
it just because I don't think Chicago is that far off them, and they didn't win a game either or a point. So
and they probably had an easier week, and they also lost a lot, like a lot
yes,
worse in a sense as well. So yeah, look, I agree with you. I was on the same thought process. I teetered with having Chicago at 32. I definitely think they're one bad week away from being back in that 32 spot, but I gave them just a little bit of leeway because the Ducks just couldn't get a point. I think if the Ducks had taken a point, we'd be having a different discussion right now.
yeah. All right, 30 for me. Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah, see, look, this is the big one. I've got them a lot higher, and by a lot higher, I mean 27th. But it's just honestly, I could have any of the next four teams or the
Well,
three teams below
it's
them
a big call. It's a
at
big
30.
call. Going through their week
Mm-hmm.
though, they OT win against Toronto. That was after losing 2-5 to Florida. They only had the 19 shots though. And then at ending the week, 6-3 loss to the Devils. My concern, just conceding way too many goals. And
Yeah,
they can't hold leads. I think if they held leads, like held every lead, they'd probably be like first in the league.
yeah,
Even
yeah.
if they held
That.
half of them, they probably would be in the
Hmm.
top 10.
Yeah, dude. Interesting stat on that. 15 of their 16 regulation losses have come from surrendering a lead. How insane is that? How insane is that? They have 17 regulation losses now after the Devils game, but that was a stat that came out in that game was 15 of their 16 regulation losses up to that point, they had surrendered a lead. And I'm not just talking about like one goal leads, right? They've led a game 1-0 very early and lost it. We're talking multiple 2 goal plus leads that they've surrendered throughout this year and lost in regulation. So yeah, it's interesting because I don't think they're as bad as what their standings say. I just think they've got to learn how to win. And once they can
Good
get
tip
that,
for a losing team: learn how to win.
oh, well, it's one of those things. I think most sports organizations see it like when a team's been bad for so long, you almost forget how to win. So even when you get into winning situations and you're winning a game, you fall apart. And I feel like that's what's happening with Columbus. They haven't quite grasped how to win and hold on to wins and how to play in winning scenarios because they're not used to it. I think that's what they lack, and if they can get it, they'll move. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting season for them. All right, my 30 is the Seattle Kraken.
Alrighty, 29.
Yeah, look, what can you say? Like I think they finished the week pretty well. Obviously started off with the 3-0 loss to the Minnesota Wild, but then finished with a 4-0 win against Florida and a 7-1 win against Chicago, and then the shootout loss to the Kings. So 5 of their last 6 points, picking up a good win against Florida and a point against the Kings. So they finished their week pretty well. But again, they are 2-5-3. So like, even though they finished pretty well, I feel like I need to see more before I bump them up too much further.
Yeah, no, that's fair. 28 for me. I have the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah, they're wait, did you say 28 or?
Yeah, 20. Well, for
Oh yeah,
me, yeah, 28.
yeah, they're my 28 as well. I was like, I have a 29, but I haven't done 29 yet. That's all right. Yeah, they're
So they start
28 for
off,
me.
they shoot out, lose to Vegas, they beat Winnipeg, and then they 0-1 lose to Arizona in regulation. So they go 500, versing two top 10 teams and one of the border top 16 teams. So pretty good week. They've been strong for probably the last 3 weeks. It's just yeah, that hole is so deep that's hard to keep moving up.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's they basically have to continue to be above 500 for the rest of the season to even get anywhere close to or out of the bottom three, which is insane. So, like they're they could go in the next 20 games, they could go what 15-5, and they'd still be in a bit of trouble. Like
Mm.
they would only just be a 500 team. So yeah, they've got a long way to go, but the performances are a lot better at the moment. Um, at 29, a team that shouldn't be this low, but my God, they're just terrible at the moment. Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, they're my 27.
Yeah. So I feel like, honestly, if you look at it, basically last week we had Columbus and Buffalo, you and me flipped. So makes sense why you had Columbus go down a spot and I haven't had them move because I just didn't feel like the Sharks, Buffalo, and that had done enough to warrant moving above them. But yeah, like Buffalo, what if you're a Buffalo fan? I think you're quite frustrated this season because you beat Arizona to start the week, which is a good win. You then get trounced by Colorado 5-1. You beat the Vegas Golden Knights 5-2, and then on the back to back you lose to Arizona Cody. So it's not a bad week, but it's also a frustrating week. You can beat Vegas, but you get absolutely trounced by Colorado. So, and that's why I didn't move on them because I just feel like every time I move on them because they got a good win against a decent team, they then go and lose to three shit teams, and it's honestly frustrating. I'm not even a Buffalo fan, but it's frustrating.
Alrighty,
Um,
26 for me. I have the Ottawa Senators.
Ottawa Senators, I have them at 25.
Yeah, so no wins this week. They started out losing to Carolina. They lose to St. Louis, and then on the back to back, they lose to Dallas in a 4-5 game. But all losses in regulation. They play good. Like overall, they outshot their opponents by 13 this week, but they get outscored by 6. And I think that's just the problem. They play good, but they just still don't get results.
Yeah, their defense and their goaltending is very questionable,
Mm.
and it lets them down far too often. And that's unfortunately that's going to be the story of their season, and it's going to be the reason why they don't make the playoffs again, and their fan base is bitterly disappointed once again. So yeah, unfortunately, until they can tighten up that blue line, I think they're gonna continue to sit around this low to mid 20 mark.
Alrighty,
All right, moving on to my 26. I've got the Montreal Canadiens.
yeah, my 25.
Thought so. Yeah, I mean, not overly a terrible week. They lose 1-2 to Nashville, which real tight game that one, and against a reasonably good side. They lose 3-4 to the Pittsburgh Penguins in shootout, so pick up a point there, and then beat the New York Islanders 5-3. So tough week. Come out above at 500. So yeah, look, they're still ways away. I don't think they're gonna bother too many teams in terms of playoff bound and like wild card spots, but they're hovering around that 500 mark, and yeah, I just think yeah, it's just a little bit more. Obviously, the loss of was it Kirby Dack for the season hurts, and then I think they need a few more pieces and a little bit more experience for some of those younger players, and they're gonna be quite dangerous in the future.
Yeah, no, I was impressed with the week. Honestly, they were competitive in every game. It was very close against Nashville, who's been good. Very close against Pittsburgh, and it was a shootout. So basically draw, and then they get the win over Islanders, which is always a close game. So I was impressed by it, but it was just the results where they don't move. On to 24, Calgary Flames, another team that doesn't move for me.
Yeah, same here. 24 for me as well.
And I think it's just that, honestly, very similar to Montreal in regards to not all the results they want, but very close. Like 5-6, lost to Colorado in regulation. Back to back, they go to OT against Vegas, but they lose. Then they go to shootouts against the Wild and lose that. But then at the end of the week, beating Tampa. So it's very similar to Montreal. Very close games. A couple OT shootout games where they could have probably got extra points, but they didn't. But it is what it is. So yeah, I couldn't move on them.
Yeah, I feel like this week for rankings in terms of what teams did, it was really tough. Like there were some teams where they lost, but they lost they lost quite admirably, or they were going to OT or shootouts, and then there were a couple of teams that won, but it was like they they weren't playing really anybody's. They were games that they should have won easily. So it was like I did have a bit of trouble with this week's power rankings, that's for sure.
Hmm.
All right. 23, I've got the St. Louis Blues.
Oh, okay. I guess this is where we diverge a bit. I'm at 20.
It's a big cry. Yeah, look, like I said, I had a bit of trouble with some of these because I was looking at a lot of what the teams had done, and they had either done a lot of similar to teams around them. But yeah, look, St. Louis Blues, they had an all right week. They lose 4-6 to Detroit to start the week, but then finish with a 4-2 win against Ottawa, and then a 4-3 OT win against Dallas. So, really solid week for them. 4 out of 6 points. The loss against Detroit's probably the only drop. Um, but yeah, unfortunately for me, they just didn't move up because it's just yeah, there's a couple other teams around them that have climbed those rankings a little bit.
Hmm. No, that's fair. It was basically a flip flop. I think it's for 21. They're my
Hmm.
20 and 21. It's basically a coin flip, but I think like they're edging just that little bit better than my 21, so it's why they get that extra position for me. Though it's basically neck and neck for me. Um, my 23, Minnesota Wild, moving on up after a good week, and I think this team went undefeated this week. Yeah, they won all three games, beating Seattle, beating Calgary, going to shootout, and then they beat Vancouver in shootout. So honestly, two draws there that they get the extra point from, but it works out, you know.
Hmm. Yes. Sorry, I had them at 22. Yeah, I was just trying to figure that out then. Um,
No, you're right. So yeah, it was an easier schedule too. So Seattle, Calgary, teams we've already talked about, and then Vancouver, which is the better of the teams, and they go to OT shootout against them. So good week overall, but a little concerned about going to OT shootouts.
I actually, sorry, wow. Yeah. So St. Louis weren't actually 23.
Okay.
I- Yeah, I made a mistake there. That was actually meant to be Tampa Bay.
He doesn't know his own rankings. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll fill
Nah,
it.
like because I was
I'll
looking at
fill
it.
in Tampa then. It's my next one anyway.
Yeah, that works well. But yeah, they're actually so St. Louis are my 21 and Tampa Bay are my 23. I had them around the wrong way. I was like, oh, I just absolute shambles. Yeah, lost plot. But yeah, I was like looking at it and I was like, hang on a second. I don't remember when you said it and you had them so high. I was like, I don't actually remember having St. Louis at 23. And I was going through it and I was like, nah, because I had Tampa so high and I was like, nah, that's wrong. But no, Tampa Bay are my 23, St. Louis are my 21. Yeah, Tampa just honestly for
Yeah.
me
Well,
slipping a little bit.
well, I guess finishing wild, undefeated, they're bouncing back, so they're climbing the ladder like they did last year. Tampa, I guess we'll move on to Tampa. They lose to Vancouver, they beat Edmonton, and then they lose to Flames. All games in regulation. I'm just not convinced by them. I think they're conceding too many goals. I think they 4 goals in the Vancouver and Calgary game, and even the Edmonton game. So they're averaging 4 goals
Mhm.
against. It's just not good enough. And yeah, I haven't rated them Tampa all season.
Yeah. No, me either. I think I thought once Vasilevsky came back they might improve, but yeah, it's just not really happening for them. It's hard to see them sort of yeah. I don't know. I seriously could see them missing out on playoffs this season.
Alrighty. I guess it's my pick.
It's you.
So
Yep.
21 for me, Pittsburgh Penguins. This is the team that is very much neck and neck with St. Louis for me. That could go either way
Mhm.
in each position. Both yo-yoing. They start the week, beat Arizona. They shoot out win against Montreal on the back-to-back, but then they get absolutely trounced 7-0 by Toronto. So that's what held me back was that just that 7-0 thrashing and the fact they went to shootout, though it was on a back-to-back, but shootout against Montreal.
Yeah, look, it's it's yeah, that 7-0 shellacking really did hurt them, but yeah, I gave them a little bit of leeway on that one. I Yeah, I had them above, obviously, a couple of positions above St. Louis last week, and with similar sort of records, I kept them just above St. Louis this week. But yeah, you're not wrong. It could be neck and neck. Pittsburgh lose the next game, St. Louis win the next game. I dare say that it'll be a flip. But yeah, I can't make heads or tails of the Pens either though at the moment because they just seem to do what they did last season, win a few games, then get absolutely trounced, then destroy a team, then lose a few games. Like yeah, it's going to be a another tough season to read the Pens. I think they're going to leave it right to the last minute again and probably just miss out on the playoffs again.
Alrighty, your pick.
All right. At 19, I've got and this is 100, this is accurate. This is not wrong, this one. I definitely have them there. The New York Islanders.
Oh, okay. So we diverge on this one as well. Um,
Yeah,
my top 16, New York Islanders. Just, but
yeah. And I totally get that. I could probably make a case to push them up, but I just don't like the Islanders play. Like I just always feel like there's there's just an issue there. I mean, look, they had a reasonable week, 4-3 win, OT win against Toronto, um, 4-3 win against the Anaheim Ducks, 4-5 shootout loss to Boston Bruins, and then a 3-5 loss to Montreal. So they get 5 out of 8 points, but also it was a tough but a weak draw as well. So they played Toronto and Boston quite tough, and then the Ducks and Montreal. Um, and they didn't win any of those games, any of the two games convincingly. They struggled
yeah. Well,
to
that
hold
that's the
on against
flaw with the
Duck.
Islanders. Like they're extremely competitive. They're always extremely competitive, but it doesn't matter if it's Boston or Anaheim. They'll generally be a 1 goal game. It's
Yeah,
just how the
they can't
Islanders.
beat teams,
Yeah, they can't thrash them like 4-0 generally.
yeah. And they can't put away the bad teams either. And that's what concerns me with them.
Yeah.
I just, yeah, I think. yeah, I think they're middle of the pack at best.
Alrighty. Mine 19, Edmonton Oilers.
Did they drop a couple of spots? They're 18 for me.
Uh,
They
yeah,
dropped a couple of spots.
yeah, they
I
moved
was
down
higher on
one
them
from.
last week. Okay, makes sense.
Okay, so they at the start of the week they beat New Jersey, though New Jersey was on a back-to-back. Then they go and beat Chicago 4-1. Lose to Tampa 7-4, though they had double the shots and even more than double the shots, and then they go and lose 5-1 to Florida. So it's hard with this one. I'm not convinced with them, even though their record looks good. It's just that New Jersey win looks like they're always going to get that win because how the scheduling worked. The Chicago wins Chicago, and then the Tampa, they did an Edmonton thing, put up heaps of shots and still lose, and then yeah, Florida they lose to a good team. So I'm still not convinced with them. That's why they're at 19.
Yeah, that was my issue. That's why they dropped a couple of spots because it's, the Devils game, it was back to back, but it's still a good win. And so I'm 50-50 on that. And then the Chicago, they should always win that. But the chance to show against two teams, Tampa's not even that great. And then they still managed to get absolutely blown out. Florida had a pretty bad week as well this week, and they get done 5-1. So they're two opportunities to play better teams, I guess, in a sense, and they lose, and lose quite convincingly. So, yeah, I still think they're turning it around. They're gonna end up in the playoffs, but yeah, they took a couple of steps back this week for sure.
Alrighty,
All right. Talking about a team taking a couple of steps back, I've got the Detroit Red Wings at 17.
alrighty, 18.
Oi, I almost thought that I'd punished them quite harshly. I didn't think. I was waiting for you to turn around and say you still had them in your top 16. So, all
No,
right. But yeah, nah, look, what do you say? Like they're still a good team. They just had a bit of a hiccup in the road. Um, 3-6 loss to Dallas, which, Dallas good side. 6-4 win against St. Louis on a back-to-back. 2-1 loss to Carolina Hurricanes, and then a 1-0 loss to Philly. So four teams that are doing pretty well at the moment. Um, I say pretty well, but they're pretty tough teams, right? The majority of it. So it's hard,
mm,
but also I feel like they are lacking. Their gameplay has dropped off a little bit.
that's my
Um,
concern. Their gameplay has dropped off,
mm,
and I think their
yeah.
the start run was very high, and now they've dropped
Mhm.
below probably like below par just slightly, and that's why I've just got them outside this top 16 because I think that's exactly how they're playing at the moment.
Mhm.
And I just hope they can turn it around because it was a good run. And like I said, the
Yeah.
results weren't too bad, but they only do get the 2 points at the end of it out of 4 games. So yeah.
Yeah,
Or
and that's a tough one. So yeah, I'm the same with you. I hope they turn it around. They were exciting to watch at the start. So I hope they can turn it back on and this slide doesn't last too long.
all right, your top
But yeah.
16, somewhere in there. My number 17, Arizona Coyotes.
Ooh. Yes, I have them at 15.
Yeah, so they start out, they lose to Buffalo, back to back, lose to Pittsburgh, but then they ended up better, stronger. 1-0 win against San Jose. Then they go and beat Buffalo, who they lost prior to, on the back to back 2-0. So when they win, they didn't concede a goal, but yeah, it was kind of like just a yo-yo. It's two back to backs in the same week. It's a bit rough as well. Thank you scheduling. But
Yeah.
I'm just not convinced. Like it was pretty easy schedule, all things considered. Hardest team being Pittsburgh, that they versed and they lost to them. So I couldn't do too much movement.
Yeah, and that's sort of where I was at as well. Like, they lose to Pittsburgh Penguins, but they're on a back to back whilst the Penguins aren't. So it's hard to sort of hold that against them. And then, you look at it this time, they go up against Buffalo on a back to back, whilst Buffalo are also on a back to back, and they beat Buffalo this time. So, um, yeah, it's interesting how the scheduling works. When you come up against a team who are also on a back to back, it's somewhat of an even playing field. Who would have thought? NHL schedulers. But yeah, look, I just didn't move on them because I thought they still had a pretty good week, even though it was tough with double the back to back. So I'm still liking what they're doing. I still think they're quite solid, so they stay in the top 16 for me.
All right.
Um, all right, but at 16 for me is honestly they had a better week, but they're just holding on to that spot. The Carolina Hurricanes.
Righty. Yeah, they didn't move for me.
Yeah, look, I had them out of the top 18. That was my top 16 last week. That was my big call. And I'm almost holding on to that. I know they had a better week, but 4-1 against Ottawa, who have been ordinary. 2-1 against Detroit, who are on a bit of a slide, and then a 5-6 loss against the Nashville Predators on a back-to-back, whilst again the Nashville Predators were not on a back-to-back. So good week. But again, I don't like their record at the moment. I think they're quite poor. So I need to see more. I don't just want to be like, oh, they they won a couple of
Yeah,
games. Let's
they
put
they
them
do
straight
like
back
they do
into.
have like good weeks, and then they have like 2 weeks of bad. Yeah, 5 out of 6 points.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was really good results against Nashville there to at least get a point from that schedule and
Hmm.
versing a team of that caliber. So I was impressed with that. That's why they're still in my top 16. But like you said, I'm still not convinced with them and their gameplay. I just need to see more, and hopefully them go on a run. My number
Their
14.
defense is atrocious.
Yeah. My number 14, Washington Capitals, moving down a couple.
Oh yeah, yeah, minus 14 for
They're
me as well.
still doing really good to be up here. They start off beating Chicago. They go to shootout and lose against Philly, and then they get 3-1 lose to Nashville. So pretty just above average in regards to difficulty for the schedule there. They come out 500. So, but the other teams below them that jump them weren't 500. They were above 500, and that's why they dropped down a bit.
Yeah, and look, I kind of think this is going to be the start of Washington's downfall. I think
Yeah,
they've been
like a slow decline. Yeah.
outperforming. Yeah, exactly. They've clearly been overperforming how they're actually going to go. Insane to say, considering Alex Ovechkin has been non-existent basically in terms of goal scoring. But yeah, I think
How's
we're
that
going to
was a nine
slowly.
million whatever contract that is now? How's that looking?
Oh, I know. Not even on track for 20 goals. It's painful at the moment, but um yeah, look, I think it'll be a slow decline, but hey, it's been good watch if you're a Washington fan to this point. And it doesn't mean just because we say that they're going to decline doesn't mean they are. They might somehow continue this trend, but
It's just like the
I think
sense and gut
this
feeling,
is
the hockey sense
yeah,
we have. Yeah.
exactly. I think this is the start of their decline. I think we'll start to see them slip a little bit. Um, all right. On to my 13. I got a team that is giving us a bit of whiplash this season, I reckon. The Nashville Predators.
Yes.
Let's see how long they stay in the top 16 for this time. But
Well, they're in there a
look,
little bit deeper this time. Like they go undefeated this week,
yeah.
which is really good. And
Oh,
but
massive week.
well, yeah. I guess I'll go through it then. Montreal they
Yeah.
win. OT win against Philly. They OT win against Carolina. Back to back, they beat Washington. Um, and that's probably like a pretty difficult week, especially with the back to back at the end there. A couple OTs, which is a little concerning, but it's kind of like the Ottawa sense that they're always, or like Islanders, they're always very competitive. It's just now they're getting results, and they did it 4 times this week.
Yeah, look, it's we've said it the whole time. Even that I think they went from 14th at the start of the year or something all the way down to 28, and now they're back up to 13th. So it's like I said, yo-yo season. But I think even when we were talking about them at 28, we were talking about the only reason they were down there is because the results weren't coming. They were
Mm.
still playing good hockey. They were still playing competitive hockey. They just couldn't get the results, and now they've sort of flipped that script a bit, and they are getting the results, and they're still playing solid hockey. So yeah, like I hope they can just keep it up. Like I hope they're 7-3-0. They've won 4 on the trot. They're 18-13 on the season. They're just having a great season for a team that, wasn't really expected to do much. So, yeah, I hope they keep it up because the whiplash hurts, and it sucks having to move a team so far up and down the power rankings.
Mm.
And B, just because, yeah, I like them, and I think Brunette's a fantastic coach. I like Barry Trotz as well as the GM. So, yeah, let's hope they can keep it going. Hey.
All right, number 12, New Jersey Devils. This is a weak 12 for me. I'm actually not really that confident on New Jersey being this high, but it's just how the power rankings have played out. They started out losing to Edmonton, obviously on that back-to-back. They beat Boston in OT, then they beat Columbus 6-3. So really good week overall. They're playing good. It's just honestly probably a goalie trade's probably going to have to come, and
Hmm.
hopefully that's the answer to their prayers to get them into the top 10 where they should have been. But if that doesn't come, I'd say bordering around this 12 to 18 mark.
Yeah, I think that's their biggest issue at the moment. They've got like, to be fair, they had a lot of injuries, which was where they had their slide. Since I think Nico Hischia's been back, they're something like eight 8-2-0 or something like that. Since he's returned. So absolute phenomenal having that since they've had their leader back. But it is still a concern with that goaltending. I know they've had a little bit better goaltending lately. Um, However, it is still the biggest worry, and it can be the reason why they drop some points. And until they tighten that up, you're not going to be confident in them, but confident that they can even do anything come playoffs because knowing that that goaltending can just falter them at any moment. So, yeah, I do hope for their sake they make a goalie trade. Otherwise, even if they do make playoffs, I think it's going to be a relatively early exit because I can't see Vanacek or Schmid carrying them come playoffs.
Alrighty.
All right, number 11, I have the Dallas Stars. They just stay the same for me. They had a good week, but just didn't do enough to move up.
Yeah, well,
Same
I
for
think
you by the looks of it.
they went 2-1. It's just hard to move at this point. I think
Mhm.
all these teams, besides maybe one or two, all had good weeks, so it's pretty hard to move. They beat Detroit, they beat Ottawa, and then on a back-to-back, they OT lose to St. Louis. So honestly, 5 out of 6 points, really good week. Don't move purely because all teams around them just seem to have good weeks as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's the same mentality as mine. They had a great week. Probably a little bit weak in terms of the teams they played. I don't think one of the teams they played are even in our top 16, but still got 5 out of 6 points. Um, So yeah, if they keep that up and the teams above them sort of drop, you see them move.
Mm.
You know, Could
Uh,
move 2 or 3 positions up.
so similar team, Philadelphia at number 11 for me. Just same
Yeah.
talking points here. They're very competitive all the time, but OT lose to Nashville. They shootout win against Washington, and then they win against Detroit. So it was like I said, really good week in regards to results. Probably shame they went to OT shootout a couple times, and a close game against Detroit. But they're getting the results, and I just couldn't move because, yeah, like I said, all the other teams are as well.
Yeah, same here. Exactly the same talking points. I think they're doing good. Never was expecting them even close to the top 10. So yeah, they just keep going. It's insane. But all right. At number, oh yeah, I can't. I'm baffled by Philly at the moment, so it's hard to
Well,
sort of
it's interesting
put it
too.
into words.
We got Islanders at 16, Carolina 15, Washington 14, New Jersey 12, and
Mhm.
Philly 11 or 10 for me. So yeah, it's just interesting. Like a lot of the Metro just slightly in the top 16 there.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Real tight in that division, that's for sure. All right. At number 9, I've got the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, I've done the same. Haven't moved on them. Once again, same talking point.
Oh,
They,
again, it is right. Like they have a pretty decent week in terms of they go two two from three. They get a win against Calgary 6-5, a win against Buffalo 5-1, but then lose to Winnipeg Jets 2-6. That was probably the only downfall is that Calgary and Buffalo. I don't rate them too highly. Whereas in Winnipeg, that's the game that I would have liked to see Colorado at least be in a little bit more. So that was where I actually considered potentially moving them down, um, just how Philly and Dallas played, but I held off because it is just the one game, so I didn't want to punish them too much. But yeah, I mean, not much else to say out of that. Just won the games they should, and probably didn't perform as well as they'd like in the game that you'd hope they they'd perform a little bit better.
Alrighty, number 8, moving down, Florida Panthers for me. Um,
Oh,
this
yeah,
team, they play good and they continue to play good. They just didn't get the results this week. They beat Columbus, but then the next two games, 0-4 loss to Kraken, 0-4 loss to Vancouver. So not scoring goals, even though they doubled Vancouver's shots, and then they go on 5-1, beat Edmonton. Yeah, it was just the Seattle and Vancouver games there that worried me. If they were closer on the scoreboard, I know they doubled Vancouver's shots, 36-18, but yeah, it's just those two in particular. And the Columbus, like they're pretty low in our rankings, and Edmonton is a good win, all things considered.
yeah, well, exactly. Like I reckon if they were in those two 4-0 losses a little bit better, they probably hold their position. But the Vancouver one, I can okay a little bit. Seattle's probably not a team you should be getting blanked 4-0 by. Um, so yeah, it's a bit of an up and down week for them, and hence why they drop a little bit because everyone in the top 10 basically had a pretty good week. So it doesn't take much to sort of drop this week for sure. But yeah. All right, let's move on to number 7. I have the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Right, they are my number 6.
I mean, have you ever had a record where you gave up a 5-0 lead and lost in OT, and then years later you came back from a 5-0 deficit to lose in OT. Ah, well, the Toronto Maple Leafs can have that. But yeah, look, I mean, what do you say about that week? OT lost to the Islanders, then they beat the Rangers on a back-to-back 7-3, then they OT lose to Columbus, and then they not on the back to back, but 2 days later, absolutely belt the Pittsburgh Penguins 7-0. So I don't know, like the games that you'd probably expect them to win, that Islanders game and the Columbus game, they lose in OT. But the two, like the Rangers one, where on a back to back, Rangers weren't on a back to back, and they belt them 7-3. Um, and then obviously the 7-0 win. So it's 6 out of 8 points. Interesting is all I can really make of that week. It's a good week for them overall, but yeah, a strange one.
Yeah, they face all Metro teams. I think the reason why they move up for me is they beat the Rangers 7-3 on the back-to-back. Islanders always a competitive game. Um, Columbus, they're always they can take it to you. They'll get the lead most likely. Just if they'll shatter it or not. But yeah, then the Pittsburgh. So I had to move them up. But 6 is as far as they go for me already. I think it's my pick at number 7. Vegas Golden Knights might be shocking to a few people considering where they are in the standings and point percentage and whatnot. But I'm just not.
I've got them at 6 as well.
Okay, I'm just not sold on this team. Like they go to shootout against San Jose, they win, but it go to shootout against San Jose. Then they go to OT against Calgary. Both games they're conceding 4 goals as well. They win against Calgary, then they go and lose 5-2 to Buffalo. So I'm not convinced by the week, and I just think they've had an easier schedule. Sure, I think they've beaten Winnipeg twice, Colorado a couple times, and LA 2 out of 3 times. Like they've beaten some good teams, but I still think they've had a lot easier schedule compared to a lot of well, pretty much everyone else in the league, and I think it's very much inflated because of that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I do. I think, their standings, they might be, I think, second or sorry, third, or yeah, I think they're third in points percentage or something like that. But I just I do. I think that's off the back of a lot of an easier draw. They're in the easier division, easier conference as well, in a sense. So, um, yeah, I still think they're a great side. Like, this isn't taken away from them. They're still a top 10 NHL side,
Hmm.
but I think their standings position is off the back of the easier draw that they do face.
Yeah,
So,
like they
yeah,
versed
for me, I
Calgary,
just
who were on a back-to-back, and they weren't on a back-to-back. Scheduling 10 out of 10,
exactly.
but it just made
Well,
it easier for
exactly.
them.
Exactly. It was like when they played San Jose. They weren't on a back-to-back, but San Jose was, and
Yeah.
everyone's like, "Oh yeah, San Jose getting trounced 5-0." Well, of course they're gonna get trounced 5-0. They're playing the freaking defending Stanley Cup champions, and they're on a back-to-back. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, the schedule has favored them a little bit this year, which is probably what's holding me and yourself back from having them any higher than we do. Because I think when it comes to the tougher teams, they'll struggle. I just don't think they're as good at the moment. Let's move on to the top five. Hey, I've got the Vancouver Canucks at number 5.
Yes, been doing good.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus, hey, like, I was just not expecting them to stay as well as what they were. I was expecting them to have a slip off and continue to fall, but they had a pretty good week. I think they went was it 2-1. They beat Tampa Bay Lightning 4-1. They beat Florida Panthers 4-0. And then they have a shootout loss to the Minnesota Wild. So 5 out of 6 points. Somewhat of a hardish week with Minnesota, who are back to playing some pretty decent hockey at the moment.
Hmm.
Florida, who are a top 10 side. The easiest one out of that is probably Tampa, which is crazy to say. So yeah, look,
And they only
they just
concede two
continue to
goals,
impress.
2 goals out of
Yeah,
for the whole week. Sure, they lose because of the shootout goal, but that's not counted. So yeah, only 2 goals conceded, and they think they scored by like 9 goals. So 9-2.
yeah, yeah. Look, they are super impressive. And I hope they can keep it up all season because they have been exciting to watch. Exciting to like their play is fantastic, and I think it would be very interesting to see how they go in a playoff game. So I really do hope they keep it up.
Alrighty. Number 4 for me, I have the Winnipeg Jets. So this top five is actually very close now. I think a lot of these
Hmm.
could be kind of interchangeable. Um, Winnipeg had a 3-1 week, really strong. Beat Anaheim, lost to San Jose, so 2 easy games in 500. On the back-to-back, they go and beat LA, and then they beat later on in the week after a couple days break, Colorado 6-2. So beat 2 very decent teams versus 2 very easy teams, though they only lost one of them. So I think this is probably one of the strongest teams in the league. Like I said, this top five now could all interchange to P1 to P5 next week, depending how results go.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, look, I bumped them up to third. I think they're playing some really good hockey at the moment. The San Jose Sharks game did have me questioning it, but then I thought also, San Jose Sharks have been playing some pretty good hockey lately as well. So maybe I won't hold it against them as much. But yeah, I think they're definitely, if they keep going, they could potentially even take away that number 1 or 2 spot. So yeah, they're performing very well.
Alrighty.
Um, all right, at number 4, I've got moving down just the one spot with a couple of losses, the Boston Bruins.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, look, I mean, I say a couple of losses, but it was an OT loss to the Devils, which was just an absolute grind. Goaltenders were both fantastic in that game. Defenses were pretty strong. a shootout win against the Islanders, and then an OT loss on the back-to-back to the Rangers. So three Metro teams in 4 days. A relatively hard schedule there, and they still walk out with 4 out of 6 points. So you know it's hard to punish them too much. I still think they're playing quite well. I do feel like there's been a slight drop off in their game. So I don't know if that's going to keep trending, and they're going to continue to sort of like fall back a little bit. However, it's hard not to have them in your top 5 when they're number 1 in points percentage. And yeah, they continue to perform night in, night out, and even in the games that they lose, it's always relatively close. So yeah, I still think they're really strong, although I have seen a little bit of a slip in their game. I still think they're 1 or 2 good weeks from being back at number 1, honestly.
Alrighty. Number 2, moving down, LA Kings. So no longer number 1. Just had
No.
a poorer week. They lose to New York Rangers, the team we haven't talked about yet. Then they go and lose to Winnipeg Jets. So 2 top 5 teams they lose to, and then they shoot out win against Kraken. So a pretty poor week, all things considered. Even though they
Mhm.
do double Kraken shots and they do end up getting the 2 points, they did go to OT shootout. And yeah, that's why they moved down for me, though they're still one of the top tier teams for me.
Yeah, I didn't punish them too much. I teetered with the Jets going above them, but I think that's a bit cruel. The Rangers only move above them because Rangers also had a fantastic week, but it is that win against them. It was a very close decision to make the LA Kings number 1 last week, as it was. But given the Rangers got that win, it was a pretty easy decision to make that flip back. But yeah, like you said when we started, this top 5 is very close. Like, I feel like if the Rangers and Kings have a bad week and the Jets, Boston, and Vancouver have good weeks, it could be a complete flip. Um, Honestly, all of these teams are pretty close at the moment, and I think the Rangers, obviously at number 1, which we can put in, um, are honestly probably the best going around at the moment. But they have had a bit of a slip up lately as well. So um, you know, are they going to bounce back? They went 3-1 this week, but there was a little bit. I think last week they had a bit of a hiccup, and there was some question marks. They had that big 7-3 loss against Toronto Maple Leafs, and which was a question mark of, oh, is this the start of something? But they bounced back pretty strong with the solid win against Anaheim, and then the back-to-back win against Boston Bruins. So um, yeah, look, I love it when it's tight like this at the top. I think it's fantastic to see that we've got a lot of competitive Stanley Cup contending teams at the top end who are just battling out. There's no clear runaway at the moment. It's honestly that number 1 position is anyone's. All it takes is one good week from a team and one bad week from another one, because they are all performing really close at the moment. It's fantastic.
Alrighty, I guess we'll leave it there. So don't forget to like the video, comment below what you think of the rankings. Leave your rankings in the comments below and do a comparison. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content. But till next time, we'll see you guys.
Catch you guys.